Hi, guys. This is Carrie with Fullerton Professional Organizing. Here we talk about things like decluttering our faith, our home, and our business. And this is, I guess I call this Testimony Friday. It doesn't really rhyme, but I have a guest that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and get started and tell us a little bit about herself.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to just sharing this story with your audience, and hopefully it's going to inspire and empower women to really just step into the fullness of who God says you are. My name is Brandi Linn. I'm also a podcast host. My podcast is Bossy Big Sis. I am a business coach, and I mostly coach business owners, entrepreneurs. I do that having been in business for the past, I don't know, 15 years. And then I'm also a social media sales and marketing for a mental wellness company. My primary business that I just closed a year ago was a clothing boutique that I had for 6 years. And I started that with every last dollar that I had in my savings account. My husband and I, was like literally just a few $1,000s, and it just grew overnight. We did $10,000 in our first weekend, and it just grew and grew from there. Became very successful. I was able to do more than $2.5 million in sales over the 6 years that I had that. I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. But about a year ago, God just began really speaking me to close the doors to that, and to pursue coaching and podcast and mental wellness full time. So that's where I'm at. But I love sharing with women, because I think so many times we see someone who has done something that we would like to do, and we can immediately feel intimidated, or like that we can't, or we have all these reasons why it happened for them but couldn't happen for us. And truly that makes me nuts because I think that God will equip each of us who are willing to just act in obedience and to step out and do the things that He calls us to do, recognizing that that's going to be different for all of us. My husband and I met when we were 18 and 19 years old. We moved to Los Angeles from our hometown in Indiana. Within a couple of years of being together, we lived in LA for a few years. We had our son there. We were not married. I grew up knowing the Lord and believing in the Lord, but not following the Lord. And that's just how my household was. And I really kind of had a chaotic upbringing. My parents did the best they could, but they also had me when they were in high school. They were 16 years old. And so they were just doing, I think, what they could with what they had and the best that they knew. And then having our son when we were 25, but in Los Angeles, that prompted us to move home back to the Midwest. We got married shortly after having him. We had been together at that point for, I don't know, 5-6 years or something like that. But because my parents had divorced when I was like 21, I don't think I had a lot of hope for marriage. Like, marriage really was not on my radar. It wasn't something that I never dreamed of being a wife or being a mom or anything like that. But we did get married within months of our first child being born. We had our second child 2.5 years later. And then a year and a half after that, I underwent brain surgery. I had 2 aneurysms, and that was horrific. it was near death. I was in
Now,
the
was
hospital.
that before your business or
That
after?
was before, yeah, all of this is before the business.
Okay.
And so my boys were 1 and 3. And I started out just with debilitating headaches that lasted 3 weeks, to where they were so painful that I was just vomiting and lost a ton of weight and was extremely sick. And luckily, a neurologist took me seriously and had me admitted to the hospital, and they did find that I had an aneurysm. I had brain surgery, and when they went in to do that, they found another aneurysm. I was in a coma for about 10 days over Christmas. So here's, my whole family at the hospital, my husband, with his wife in the hospital, and a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And there was a point in time when the surgeons were not sure. They were concerned that I may not make it. And it was just really traumatic for us.
Oh, yes.
At that point, we had been going to church, my husband and I. I don't think it's because we so wanted to know the Lord or have an intimate relationship with the Lord. It's just that that's what we felt like we should do because we have kids now. It's
Yeah.
like it's like what we kind of thought adulting
Yeah.
needed to look like.
What parenting 101 first?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I had also gotten involved in a business. It was a direct sales business, but the women were mostly believers, and the company was a Christ-centered company. It was a Christian-based business. And so when I would go to like their conventions and stuff, I was hearing about Jesus, and I would be like, I thought I was learning how to sell. Like I thought that I was gonna,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna teach me how to sell, but it was like teaching me how to love people, and like what that looked like, and how to operate with the integrity of Christ and things like that. And so I really started getting curious, I guess,
Mhm.
about following Jesus. Um, and so when I came out of the hospital, about 6 months later, I lost my job. I was the primary breadwinner for our family at that time. So here the boys are 1 and 3. I had just had brain surgery. I lost my job, which wasn't a lot of money anyways. Um, and my husband, who always had anxiety, it really increased tremendously.
Oh, wow.
And we were, we lived very paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
We had filed bankruptcy actually before that. And just life for us during that time was a struggle.
Mhm.
And we were very social drinkers. Like that was very much a part of our life, very regularly. And that just spiraled out of control for my husband over the next couple of years, probably 2 years, and developed into just a full-fledged addiction to alcohol. When I realized what was going on, I had an intervention, and this was like, so I had already seen the miracle in my brain. Like God had already done a miracle there for me to even survive that and to
Mhm.
not have like real serious side effects from that. But then when my husband decided to get sober, he detoxed really badly from home, to where I needed to actually admit him to the hospital.
Mm.
And when he came out of the hospital a couple of days later, we never looked back. Like he never went to rehab. He never drank again. It's just like God literally just took the addiction from him.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was truly miraculous, because when he was in the hospital, um, he was hallucinating. I mean, I was like, I'm like, is this how he's going to be forever? Like he was losing his mind. And that was just like another miracle that I saw God do in our family. And when he came out of the hospital from that, like we really became more and more intentional with our relationship with the Lord. I quit drinking as well, just because it was my belief. I'm not saying everybody has to do this that's going through something like that, but it's gonna be a lot easier for your spouse to be sober if you're also sober. And so I didn't drink after that as well, and we just really started living full speed ahead for Jesus. It was only a matter of months after that that we bought our first house. We lived there for just a couple of years before starting my business. And then, as I said, when I started that business, it just grew very rapidly and it was very successful for us. And now we look back and we're like, we can just see how God's hand was on everything that we were doing, even though it felt messy and scary and hard. And it's funny, we were just on a walk over the weekend and we were talking about how, for me personally, because I grew up, I shared that my family was just chaotic, especially in my teenage years. And I was like, for a full 15 years, I lived in tremendous chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Just so much chaos that I didn't even realize that I lived in chaos. Like that was just my normal
It
to
becomes
always,
comfortable and normal, right?
yeah, it's just that was my normal to always be struggling, always being like fighting to keep myself just above water. And so now we look back and our life is so calm and so chill. And of course, we have struggles and challenges, and we're always going to as believers, but it's like, man, like, thank God that the Lord moved through all of that and like redeemed, and the generational curses were broken off of our family, and that we now serve the Lord and our family serves the Lord. And it's like, I'm just forever amazed at how different like my life is now
Mm-hmm.
compared to then.
Yeah, I'm the same. I had a little bit of a chaotic parent
Mhm.
growing up as well. And I feel and see what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So, and now I am just on a mission. And this just became more and more transparent to me over the past couple of years, really, because I closed the boutique a year ago. But I'm in this season of life. My boys are 14 and 17. And things are a little slower with them. They're not in sports. One drives now. So we spent years of our lives just living on ball fields and
Yes.
things. And things are like a little slower now. And I'm just in a season of life where like all I want to do is have fun and impact people. Like
Right.
that's it.
Yeah, go into a little bit of why, and I think that's where you're headed. But
Mhm.
why you closed the boutique and decided to start doing what you're doing. And I think it has to do with where you're going with the conversation. But I thought
Yeah.
I'd, you know, slow it down a
Well,
little bit and really
yes.
dig in.
Yeah, well, I love that you talk about decluttering your life and your
Mhm.
faith and your business. And even though I ran a tight business with incredible systems, and I'm very type B personality by nature, but I ran a very, very systematic business. It still was just so much,
Mhm.
and even though I loved it, it was so much work, managing staff, I mean, just my head was just constantly spiraling. And I just reach a point where I'm like, I just don't want to juggle so many balls anymore.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just don't the money was great and there were other great aspects of it, but I just quite honestly don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to manage so many things. I don't want to manage so many people. I don't want to make so many decisions. And I just began having more and more peace about making that decision, even though someone on the outside looking in would probably be like, what is she doing
Mm-hmm.
to close that when it is successful? And she does love it. But I just knew that God was calling me into a new season, you know.
Right. And was this before COVID or during COVID?
It was just a year ago that I closed. So I had the boutique through COVID, which I was an online boutique, and online boutiques through COVID thrived.
Yes.
And so that was a blessing financially for me for sure. It could also become addicting. So I did a lot of social selling. So that would be like live sale,
Mm-hmm.
to where you would click on the app and I would be live talking, trying on clothes. And like through COVID, because it was doing so well, I would do maybe 2 a week, but then it did so well that I was like, let's do 3 a week, let's do 5 a week, let's do 2 a day.
Yeah, always upping the ante, right?
And it could become addicting, and it was also thrilling and exhilarating and a lot of instant gratification, because I could turn on my phone and be live and do thousands of dollars in sales. And like, that was literally was like a high, you know? And so to make the decision to leave that was challenging, but also history has proven that God blesses obedience, and that's
Obedience.
scripture. That is scripture. And I had to be willing to let go of what I loved to like, and surrender it to God, to be able to like have my hands open for whatever it is that He had next for me.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So, but what I love now is that before I had closed, I had already started coaching other business owners,
Mm-hmm.
and I was loving that. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I just knew that I wanted to be able to do more of that, to help other small business owners to really thrive in their businesses
Yeah,
and
I
make
love that too.
incredible, yeah, and to be able to make incredible money, and um to have a life and a business that they love. And so now I'm like, I love this. Like, my clients, I'm able to hop on a call with them, and I specialize really in systems and strategies, and I can spend an hour helping them to develop killer systems and strategies. I've got one client in particular who she's worked with me for a full year, but when she started, she was doing about 25,000 a month, and she's doing over 100,000 a month now after a year of working together. So she's absolutely killing it. But I close the computer after I call and I'm done. I
Yeah,
don't have to, I don't have to execute anything. I don't have to manage anybody. And it's just like, oh, yes, like I get to help her in the ways that I'm really good.
mm-hmm.
And then I'm done.
Yeah,
And that for me, as someone who's always I'm a worker, and I work hard and I will go full speed. And this season for me has been a shift a little bit, but it's been so nice.
yeah. Well, and what's so great about it is, the Lord did the boutique, so you had the systems down, so now you can do this. It's just the way, I mean, to me, it's amazing how God brings you through this, has you solve all the problems through this, and now you have it down, and now you have more freedom, because and you're still helping people. This wasn't wrong, because if you hadn't done this, then you wouldn't be so clear on this.
Right. And I also think, as you're saying that, my brain surgery, people wouldn't know that that there's anything within my brain that I still struggle with. But up until I started on the mental wellness products that I am partnered with, my brain was very ADHD like. And I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. I really think it was just lingering side effects from my brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the way that my brain operated, that sort of forced me to have really good systems, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to operate at the level that we were going.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, yeah, I can see how like it's because of the brain surgery probably that I really even needed to also have such clear systems. And then that also catapulted me into the wellness space that I am in, because that ever appealed to me because of the way that my brain
Mm-hmm.
operates. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm always fascinated by brain health specifically.
Yeah.
And
And
so
how God can use anything. God
and
can use what happened to your brain and use what you learned in your business. He's continuing to use where we're at to
yeah,
propel us on.
yeah. And I think, it's easy to see someone on social media or follow someone, and my husband and I own rental property, and we have an Airbnb in Florida, and my husband owns his real estate company. And it's so easy for people to look and maybe be like, must be nice, or,
Mhm.
the I wish things or whatever. But a reason why I'm so transparent about everything we've gone through is because there's nothing so special about me that isn't also in everybody else. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, God doesn't just, I'm not just God's favorite.
Mhm.
God wants to bless all of us, and God can move in every story. And that's really important to me, that like, that people recognize that like God can move in whatever mess you have going on.
Yeah.
And to sit in every failure or every weakness, like we could have shrunk back and sat back when we filed bankruptcy, not once, but twice. Or when my husband, was a full-fledged alcoholic, or, there were just so many things that we could have just kind of thrown in the towel.
Yeah. Giving up.
Yeah, given up. And, the word says it's the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony. And that's why I'm always so excited to share every messy situation of my life, because it's like, that's when I think God sets me free, but I think he sets other people free
Mhm.
as well. Because we can't hold on to shame of our past.
Mhm.
That is clutter,
Yeah.
really. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very good, which causes me to we'll segue into some of the questions I have about organizing too. But what is a Bible verse or teaching that has been the most meaningful to you through this journey?
the one that always I'm like, um, the parable of the talents. My worst nightmare would be to get to heaven and for God to be like, you lazy, wicked servant.
Mm,
I just, my life verse is, to whom much is given, much more is required. I just feel like I've been given so much,
mhm.
not like things, nothing
Right.
material. Just, I've been given so much, and I never want to take that for granted. And I want to be someone who like uses it all for the glory of God. And I think when I think of that life verse as paired with the parable of the talents,
Mhm.
I want to walk that out so fully. Like, I don't want to waste anything, any
Awesome.
opportunity, any experience. Like, I just want to like use it all.
Yeah. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
I love that. I have a Christian women's business network too, and I'm going to be posting this podcast on there, and I really want them to be encouraged by this, and I think they're going to really enjoy it. So how has your relationship with Christ shaped the way you live your life today? And I think you already touched on some of it, but if you were to sum it up.
I think something that I remind myself of often maybe because I'm like on social media and there are always going to be opinions of other people. And that's something that I've had to work through and overcome. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, the way that I try to live my life and that I lead my kids to live their lives is that we are, quite honestly, we're called to love people, share the good news. There are a million different ways you can do that. So you can be freed up to pivot wherever you're at in life. Like
Mhm.
if you're still loving people and sharing the gospel, doesn't really matter how, I don't think God cares how exactly you do that. So if you want to start a business so that you have more opportunities to do it, do it. If you want to close a business and go into full-time ministry, do it. If you want to start a hot dog stand on the side of the road where all you do is pray for every customer, do it. Like, I
Mhm.
think we overcomplicate, and I'm
Yeah.
someone who just will pivot as needed and just know that like God, it's not as complicated as we think.
Yeah.
We can
Just
let
listen to
people
the
share the
Holy
gospel.
Spirit. He'll guide us through. Yeah, I like that. Now, what do you do to relax and enjoy life? Because sometimes we can do all these things and be
Yeah,
successful at all these things, but sometimes we forget to chill and take some time and
yeah.
relax.
That was hard for me. This was all a hard lesson for me, definitely. But about 3 years ago, God really spoke to me about stewarding well this one life in this one body. And I started getting serious about just taking care of myself.
Mhm.
So whether that's just spending 10 minutes to read a book, or, whatever it is, but something that I do that I love doing that's a huge part of my life is lifting weights, and just working out. And if it can be outside, if I could go just take a walk. My husband and I have electric bikes and we love to ride our e-bikes through the trails, behind our house. Things like that, like an activity for me is relaxation.
Oh, okay.
May
Yeah.
not be the norm for some people, but that's
Yeah.
like, that frees my mind. And if I can be outside, I just feel so much more relaxed.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Now here's the segue into some organizing. What area do you struggle the most with organization, and what area are you the most proud of organization wise? And it can be anything, home, business, whatever you.
I am two different people at home and at work. My husband would say, I I am the problem in our home and I have teenage boys, but I'm the one who is so messy. I put on 52 outfits before I leave the house and they're all on the floor. Like you would think that I'm a teenager, the way that my closet could look in my bedroom.
Well, see, and that's what I try to portray. Yes, it's great to be organized, but normal is, some things
Yeah.
are normal.
Yeah, yeah. So that I am just by nature a little bit of a messy person. Um, something that I'm very good at, something that I live by. This is so simple. I think it's so simple that people underestimate it, especially if you are a busy corporate woman or business owner. Your life is moving a million miles a minute. You have a to-do list that's from here to China. And I think a lot of women are waking up every day just feeling overwhelmed. And I live by my planner. Every night before I go to bed, I'm planning out tomorrow. And it's not just a list, it's a time blocked list.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, I love that. I live by my planner too. It accidentally got picked up at a donation place when I was donating a bag of stuff, and they grabbed it off my console and added it into the bag. I almost had a heart attack. Thank goodness I found it back. I got it back.
yeah. And so I live by that. It's something that I fought against for a long time because again, I'm a little type B. So for me to be super structured feels kind of suffocating. But what I found is that I actually have more free time when I better plan my days. I wake up not anxious or overwhelmed because I've already planned out everything that needs to
Right. And
happen.
you plan in space so that you're not just planning in all the things. You have to plan in the relaxation, the family time. You have to, and the downtime between clients.
I have to put like eat lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I could work straight through and
Oh, yeah,
sleep.
me too.
Like, why am I so tired? Why am I so hungry? Oh, because I haven't given myself anything. I'm living on caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that, I've really gotten better at being mindful to take care of myself. But planning out my day every night, the night before for the next day is huge for me.
Yeah. Well, our time is coming to an end. There's only two other things. Just anything that we didn't mention that you want your audience to know, the audience to know, and then how to find you. And also, we'll put all of that in the description as well, just in case we get cut off before she finishes. It will all be in there. But go ahead and let us know some things that you want us to know, or
Yeah. So I would love for you to follow my podcast, to give it a listen. It is very just real, raw conversations. A lot of mindset, wellness, some business, really just all things
deep
that
testimony.
deep testimonies, all things that us women want to talk about and need to talk about. And so it's like you're sitting down with just one of your good friends having coffee. That's what I would love the most, is for the audience just to connect with me there. And I will be sure to give you that info so you can put it in the show notes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, we'll have details in the description. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. I will also go to her, and I told my testimony, and you will really love her podcast. And again, thank you. And we will see you on the next video.
All right. See you later.
Okay, I think, let's see.